Hi, my name is Ryan Christensen, and welcome to Hypnosis for Men. I wanted to put this video together today in response to an interview that Jon Sonmez from Bulldog Mindset did with a hypnotist from California named Marczell Klein back on the 28th of July. Now, on the one hand, I'm really glad that Jon from Bulldog Mindset is putting this kind of content out there. Now, the topic was, is hypnosis real? And of course, as a certified hypnotist myself, I've got my own opinion on that. Of course, I believe it's a very powerful tool for self-improvement and personal change. And I'm glad to see that Jon Sonmez is putting more material out there and getting more awareness of hypnosis as a tool for change in not only the Bulldog Mindset community, but into the larger male self-improvement arena as well. That said, I had some issues with the way that Marczell Klein had presented hypnosis and some of the claims he made about hypnosis during that interview, and it really didn't sit very well with me. So I felt it was important to make this video in response and kind of lay out what I saw that was good, what I saw that was bad, and the specific issues that I had with the way that hypnosis was presented. Now, to start out with, number one, Marczell is definitely a trained hypnotist. I can tell by the techniques he's used, not only in the videos he presented to Jon during the course of the interview, but also the ones on his YouTube channel. He is definitely a trained hypnotist. The stuff that he does work in terms of actually being a hypnotic effect. He uses a lot of shock inductions and a lot of rapid inductions, which are quite common in stage hypnosis. And apparently, at least from what I can gather, he does quite a lot of seminars where he does hypnosis for large groups of people. In addition, Marczell is absolutely right that hypnosis can be a tool for rapid change. Every single one of us has all these different programs running around in the back of our head in our unconscious mind, kind of running on autopilot, that we don't necessarily have conscious control over and that we didn't necessarily consciously choose to put back there and have run, even when we're not aware of what's going on. When you get back there and you change those can have a massive impact on your life for the better as well as for the worse. The issue that I have is that I have some concerns with the way he presented hypnosis in a number of ways. Number one, the rapidity and permanence of change, and I'll get to that specifically. Number two, the way he was a bit sloppy or careless with the science around hypnosis. And last but not least, his focus on confidence as the mechanism of change or the holy grail of change. So to begin with, we'll talk about that rapidity and the permanence piece. Now, a lot of the inductions that Marczell is using are very rapid inductions. He's getting people in hypnosis quite rapidly, and he's doing a barrage of suggestions while they're down in hypnosis to cause change. And this is a completely valid technique in hypnosis. It works quite well. The difficulty that I have in the way he presented it is he presented it in such a way that one time, just 5 seconds, 5 minutes, whatever it is, snap of his fingers, he can change somebody's life. In my opinion, and at least in my experience, it's a little bit more complicated than that. He completely glosses over the issue of hypnotizability. And what that refers to is that people have varying levels of responsiveness to hypnosis, right? They can either be very difficult to get in hypnosis, they don't respond very well to the suggestions while they're there, or they, on the other end of the spectrum, they can respond very powerfully to the suggestions in hypnosis. And universities like Stanford and Harvard both have hypnotizability scales where they'll do a series of tasks once they get somebody into hypnosis to determine on what end of the scale they fall. And the point of having these hypnotizability scales is so that they can break the cohorts during studies to those who respond very well and those who don't respond very well at all to hypnosis, so they can see the difference in brain activity between those two groups as they're doing the studies. And you can actually see this in one of the studies that Marczell had referenced about the colors and the symbols, right? This study was done back in 2005. I've got a link to it in the description below. And it's basically, they took two groups of volunteers, one that was very hypnotizable, that responded very powerfully in hypnosis, and a second group that did not respond to hypnosis very well. That was very low hypnotizability. Okay? They sat both groups down. They said, we're going to be doing a test on cognitive function. We're going to get you in hypnosis, and after that, we're going to give you a test a couple of days later. Once they got them in hypnosis, the suggestion that they gave was that during the test, they would see a series of meaningless symbols on the screen that were a certain color. And all they had to do was press the button associated with the color on that little keypad. Okay? They got them out of hypnosis, and then a couple of days later, they sat them down and did what's called a Stroop task test. And the Stroop task test is where you have words on the screen. So you'd have the word red, R-E-D. And if it's color red, and it says red, then your brain automatically just pushes the button red. There's no conflict. But if you have the letters R-E-D, that your brain knows refers to the color red, but they're blue, then your brain now has a conflict between the area that's processing symbols and language and the area that's just processing the visual color itself. When that happens, a part of your brain that actually resolves that conflict lights up, and there's a delay between when you see it and you push the button. And there's a very measurable delay. It's called the Stroop effect. Okay, for those for those subjects that were low hypnotizability, that don't respond very well to hypnosis, when they went through this test a couple of days later, they exhibited that Stroop effect. They had to resolve that conflict between the symbols that they were seeing, the meaning of those symbols, the meaning of those letters, the meaning of those words, and the color that they were seeing on the screen. And that caused that measurable delay, and it showed that the part of the brain that resolves that conflict lights up. But the interesting thing is, the people who are highly hypnotizable, who respond very well to hypnosis, zero effect. The part of their brain that resolves that conflict did not light up because there was no conflict. The hypnotic suggestion was they would be meaningless symbols. So the fact that there were letters on the screen, the fact that there were words on the screen had no impact because they were meaningless symbols. And because they were meaningless symbols, there was no conflict to resolve, and they exhibited no delay. They exhibited no Stroop effect. And this was measured by either an MRI or an EEG. I don't recall quite off the top of my head. I have to go back and look at the study again. But it's a very measurable result. And this shows a couple of two very important things. Number one, that hypnosis does have measurable effects on the way the brain processes information. And number two, the permanence of those hypnotic suggestions and the effectiveness of those suggestions varies based on how hypnotizable the person is. So the claim that Marczell makes that he can just snap his fingers and poof, instant change, instant permanent change for the rest of your life, it's not entirely true. That's going to differ entirely on the subject. Some people are going to need more reinforcement. And I'm going to get into a little bit later why I think some of those suggestions may or may not have as permanent of an effect. But that kind of gets us back into that second point that I had. And that was how careless I felt that Marczell was about some of the science around hypnosis. Because fundamentally, we don't know exactly why it does the things it does. That said, we can measure quite a few things in terms of the effects on how the brain processes information while in hypnosis and in response to hypnotic suggestions. Marczell made the claim that theta waves, which is one of 5 different brainwave states, is hypnosis. Theta waves are a type of brain or a brainwave activity between 4 and 7 hertz that is quite prominent in a focused state of attention. So this is in REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. That is pretty much pure theta. When you're doing your video games, you're on a Call of Duty streak and you're absolutely focused on the event at hand. You're generally in a theta state. It is a focused attentional state, but it is not hypnosis in and of itself. Okay. I've linked to a brain study below. This is brain oscillations, hypnosis, and hypnotizability, where they were measuring EEG results in the brain as they were bringing subjects into hypnosis and doing various suggestions. And what they found was that, yes, as they were getting people into hypnosis, there was a significant increase in theta activity. That's that attention. That's that focused attention. But once they're in hypnosis and doing the suggestions, what actually happened was coupling of theta waves, that is low frequency waves, with gamma waves. And it was that interaction between the two that suggested a link between the prefrontal cortex, the cortical functions, your conscious mind, and the limbic system, or that unconscious, what hypnotists refer to as the unconscious mind. And it's that coupling between the two that characterizes the hypnotic state. In addition, there was a functional MRI study where they put people in a functional MRI machine, and again divided them into highly hypnotizable and low hypnotizable subjects, right? People who respond very well to hypnosis, people who don't respond very well at all. And they measured what happened in their brain, not only during the waking state, but also while they're just at rest, while they were doing memory recall tasks, right? So they're trying to remember things, and then in 2 different hypnotic states, right? 2 different sets of suggestions and inductions. And again, the interesting thing that they found was that those who were low hypnotizability, who don't respond well to hypnosis, no real significant changes in how the brain communicated or how the brain was active. But with highly hypnotizable subjects, with those who respond very well to hypnosis. And what they found was that there were very distinct changes in how the brain was talking between different areas of the brain that also corresponded very powerfully to the effects that we see in hypnosis, right? The increase in somatic awareness and being able to control pain and control sensation, being able to feel different things, the extra ability to recall much more deeply and to experience things much more powerfully in hypnosis. And all these sorts of changes in how the brain worked that were so distinct between the highly hypnotizable versus the low hypnotizable, those who respond very well to hypnosis and those who don't respond very well to hypnosis, point to distinct changes that make hypnosis a distinct mental state, a distinct altered mental state that you get to through this focused attention. But the focused attention itself is not enough. You have to engage that second step of actually making those connections between the cortical and the limbic system, between the conscious and the unconscious mind. That's what makes hypnosis so unique. It's not just theta. And when people talk about things in such simplistic terms, when I was on with Richard Cooper on Before the Train Wreck on August 4th of 2020, and I'll link to that one below as well so you can see that appearance as well, he asked me why hypnosis gets such a bad rap. And I think this is a big part of it, because there's been a lot of junk science and a lot of bad science and a lot of bad explanations for hypnosis throughout the years. If you go way back to the 1800s when it was called mesmerism, it was all about magnetism and interpersonal magnetism and manipulating that magnetic force between people, which of course was BS. But at the time, magnetism was kind of the explanation for anything you couldn't really see, touch, or feel. And I think that's where the danger kind of lies. You can talk about hypnosis and how it changes the brain and the effects it can have without having to delve into that junk science. And to me, at least, that's what's turned me off from hypnosis for so long. I don't want to watch a pocket watch. I don't need to get out the crystals. I don't need to talk about vibes and chakra and energy fields. None of that stuff is grounded in true actual science. It uses scientific language in its expansion of some of those concepts, but that's not the same thing. To me, if you're going to talk science and hypnosis, rely on actual scientific studies using actual scientific instruments like EEGs and ECGs and functional MRI machines that will actually measure the changes in brain activity during hypnosis. Talk about how there are low hypnotizability and high hypnotizability. Some people don't respond well to hypnosis and it just doesn't work very well for them. But for other people, it's an incredibly powerful tool. But there's no need to say theta is hypnosis and you're in hypnosis 100 times a day, because it's wrong. And by doing that, I think we undermine our credibility as hypnotists. By doing that, I think we put ourselves back in that crowd of the power of positive thinking, the secret crystals and chakras and sunning perineums and all that stuff that, to me at least, isn't as helpful for men in this sphere, for men who are trying to do that positive self-improvement. And that kind of gets me to that last point on confidence being the focus of a lot of what Marczell does. Now, don't get me wrong. I think confidence is a wonderful thing. Being able to hype yourself up to be able to go do tasks that you would otherwise be afraid of is a wonderful tool. Positive self-talk is a great thing to do that with, and doing that in hypnosis or through hypnosis is even more powerful than just saying it to yourself in the mirror. That said, it's not the end-all be-all. And I don't feel that confidence alone, or relying on confidence as a tool for change, is sufficient in a lot of cases. I'll make it a mission. I'll admit something right now. I'm not confident sitting in front of this camera. I don't like it. I don't like making YouTube videos. I don't really like putting myself out in the world. And the interview that I did with Richard Cooper was distinctly uncomfortable. But it's also something that I know I need to do. If I'm going to be able to reach out to people, if I'm going to be able to show the rest of the world what I feel hypnosis can do, and take a bit more professional approach to it, removing the junk science from that arena, and talking about it in terms of what we can actually do for personal change, that means I have to put myself out there. I have to do videos like this. And quite frankly, I think it's important to respond to some of the things that Marczell said. Not necessarily to correct the record, but at least to give a different viewpoint. But it's not something I'm confident about. It's not something that I'm comfortable doing. It's necessary. And to me, that's a more durable path to change. It's a more durable motivation. It's a more durable force that's going to carry me through adversity a lot more than just confidence will. Because the difficulty with confidence is as soon as you run into obstacles, that confidence can crumble quite quickly. And if we go back to low and high hypnotizability again, that highly hypnotizable subject can sustain that longer, that suggestion of confidence longer. Sure. Those low hypnotizability subjects, they're not going to get it for very long. And to me, focusing on discipline, focusing on systems, focusing on what needs to be done is going to give you that lasting change more often. In addition, with some of the clients I've worked with, confidence is actually not going to be a good motivating factor to me. And the way I tend to work with clients is I want to get down to the subconscious level and I want to figure out why that unconscious program is there. I want to know what it's trying to do, what problem it's trying to solve. Because if I can figure that out, then I can give the client new solutions. New solutions actually get them closer to their goal. But if I take a client and I just say, you're more confident approaching women, you're more confident, you're able to talk to them naturally, easily, and effortlessly, and you can go out to the club and you can approach 100 women, it's great, and you don't care if you get blown out, you've got that outcome independence. But the reason they've been holding themselves back from approaching women is because they grew up in an abusive household where their father beat their mother, or in one client's case where they watched their father attempt to murder their mother, and have this deep-seated fear that they're that guy, that they have that within them, that they're dangerous to women. Then the reason they're not approaching women isn't because they're not confident, because they don't think they can do it. It's because they're afraid that if they do, they're going to perpetuate that cycle. And in a situation like that, making them more confident about approaching women doesn't freaking help them, because that doesn't change that fear, that deep-seated belief that they're that violent and dangerous person. That by not approaching women, they're protecting women from themselves. And so unless you get down and you address that issue, unless you actually address that core fear, whether it's because they feel they're dangerous, because they feel they're broken and therefore they don't deserve it, whatever that might be, until you reframe that belief, until you address that problem, then none of the confidence matters at all, because they're still not going to be able to get the results that they want. It may very well be that you make them confident and then they approach all the wrong women. The women that are going to be the train wrecks in their life. They're going to cause so many problems, that are the BPD, that are all the crazy chicks, that are the low value chicks that don't really add value to their life, that add problems instead of solutions. And that's not going to help your client at all. So to me, it's important to understand the why behind what they do, the why behind why they're not confident, the why behind why they're not going and pursuing business, or whatever it is, the change that they need in their life. There's always a reason for these behaviors. They're doing something to help the client on some level. And until you actually understand and address that problem that behavior is trying to address, you're not going to get that lasting permanent change, at least not in my opinion. Now, I could be entirely wrong. Marczell's got more experience than I completely wholeheartedly admit that. He may be getting amazing results for his clients. I know that there are a lot of people that get amazing results from listening to Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Landmark Forum and all these different sort of things where the focus is on personal change and motivation, and they get a lot out of it. And for those people, great. A lot of the clients that I've worked with, that's not going to help them. And to me, you can affect much deeper, much more lasting, much more permanent change by doing the hard work to go deeper, focusing on more than just that surface level confidence and motivation, instilling that discipline and changing those beliefs about those results, about those behaviors, about who they are on that deeper unconscious level, so they can truly create the life that they want. Now, in closing, I read a Disrupt article, an article from Disrupt magazine on Marczell that said he may be the next Tony Robbins. And if he is, phenomenal. Quite frankly, I wish him all the best. He's got the Lambos, he's got the mansions, he's got the Victoria's Secret model girlfriends. So obviously he's having some success. He's got some receipts. Totally for it. He's absolutely a trained hypnotist. The techniques that he uses does work in terms of getting people into hypnosis. You can absolutely give people that confidence boost. I just have a lot of issues in terms of how he presented it by glossing over that issue of hypnotizability and the fact that some clients simply aren't going to respond well to it, whereas other clients are going to respond very powerfully. I have issues with the way he treats the science. And last but not least, I have issues with the focus on confidence and not getting deeper, not doing the deep work to figure out what's going on under the hood. That's all I've got for today. Please like, subscribe. I'm going to be having more video content coming out. You can respond, of course, down below in the comment section down below. I'll be putting this out on my Twitter feed as well, at Hypnosis for Men. So please like, subscribe, engage. Let me know what you liked about the video. Let me know what issues you have with the way I presented hypnosis. Let me know which subjects you'd like me to cover in the future on hypnosis or whatever else. And I look forward to seeing you guys all soon. Take care.